And we're live. Hi, everybody. My name is Michael D. Nato, and with me today is Professor Danielle Gagne, Geek enthusiast. She's going to help me do a reading today of my second book, Chapter 6. This reading I'm doing in anticipation of my next book coming out. A lot of backstory in my next book of short stories, and this is one of the characters that you actually get to see quite a lot of in my next book of short stories. This is basically a meeting between Rancian and Illith, one of the older elven archmages in my book series. And without further ado, Chapter 6, The Golden Palace, G'harr. She walked back and forth, heels clacking on the deep golden tiles of the throne room. She had felt Erlgan die in Kerrigan Hold and had seethed quietly for over an hour. She had lost 7 such assets in the last 10 days, and it was getting tiring. He was supposed to stop Storn from warning his king about her presence, but that must have failed. Madame Illith G'harr stopped pacing and closed her bright green eyes, counting to 10. As an elven archmage, she was ancient in the count of years, but looked as fresh and young as when she had turned 100. Her long, bone-white hair was tied up into a bun held by a wrought iron pin, and her long black dress was slit up the side, revealing her shapely legs. It was not a good day. "What's the matter, my bitch queen? Plans not going the way you thought they would?" The voice came from the floor by the throne, and a face poked its head out from behind it. It was a man's face, and it was filthy. His long black hair was disheveled, but Rancian, Sorcerer King of G'harr, was, for now, still alive. He was chained hand and foot, but Illith had kept him alive for a reason. He just had to figure out what that reason was, very soon, before her temper gave way to violence. Still, he couldn't help but poke her with a stick now and again. It felt good for all that he had endured.
Oh, Sammy. Oh, please push my patience. I would love to just let go and make this whole city tremble.
She turned on her heel and faced the wretched man, smiling her wicked smile.
I trust that those chains are still nice and tight.
Illith had unspelled the chain so he could no longer command the elements, effectively castrating the most powerful sorcerer in all of G'harr. "I should never have brought you back." He scowled at her smug elven face and cursed her in his head for the millionth time. She was infamous as the elf that destroyed the elven nations. She had taught her human lover elven magic and had been banished for it. She traveled to the southern reaches of their great forest, there to make a community for herself and her disciples. They had brought their human slaves, and the ones who now commanded magic, and began teaching them as well. Thus began the dynasty of G'harr. She had been slain decades ago by infighting, but Rancian had found her corpse. Of course, he didn't know exactly what he had found. The body was buried with traps and deadfalls, but in the end he brought her back. He had needed ancient power to break the seal on something even more powerful, and had rushed without researching what he had found. Even after he realized who he had brought back, he thought he could control her. After all, he was the all-powerful Sorcerer King, right? That backfired faster than he could say bitch queen.
That is correct, but you did. And now I have another shot at ruling Lythinall. Once I level the capital, the land will be added to G'harr, and I will be queen of both.
She walked away, clicking across the floor and looking out one of her massive windows.
Isn't it better here? Haven't I made everyone equal in the few short years I've been back? There's no poverty, no ruling class, just people. People working to better themselves and live their lives.
"Is that what you call it?" Rancian should just let her ramble, but he had found his old core of rebellion. "They all have to worship you, or they are killed in horrible ways. You rule by fear and pain, delighting in the suffering of the very people you helped create." Rancian lost all restraint. He was angry that his people were treated this way. G'harr was his home, and she was ruining it. Illith looked up at him with mock pity.
You're just upset that I took your toy away from you. You were taxing the less fortunate and giving the so-called nobles breaks. The homeless were dying in the streets, and you sat on your golden throne laughing at them. Yet I'm the evil queen?
She honestly couldn't believe he was trying to take the moral high ground. He couldn't even spell morals. Rancian sighed and lowered his head. She was right. He had been a tyrant, even plotting war against the peaceful folk of Lythinall. But this had opened his eyes, and possibly a vein or two as well. Trust me, Illith. I know. Yet heed this promise. If I ever get out of these gods be damned chains, I will be taking back my country and fixing it. The blow came unexpectedly. His head snapped around as a hardened gust of wind slammed into him, then lifted him as high as the chains would allow. Then he went a little higher. His wrists and ankles strained against the metal and started to shear off some of the skin around them. The room went deathly quiet, except for the pitter-patter of his falling blood. Illith's humor was gone.
That will be quite enough. You will be forever my pet, and you will never have this lovely piece of land back, you wretched piece of filth.
The room grew colder as she spoke.
Now, you will be silent as I contemplate my next move, or I will rip that tongue right out of your head.
She let him drop to the floor and scramble back behind her throne. Her throne. Illith once again walked to the window, her favorite place to think. Through it, she could see the distant barrier mountains and sometimes, on a clear day, the forest of the lost.
Well, I guess they know that I'm alive, unless I can catch their messengers before they reach the king.
She thought quietly, tapping her foot.
Ashante fra sistren e oranalar.
She asked the air around to deliver her words. She didn't say the name of her commander, but instead thought of him and pictured his face in her mind as she finished, then spoke to the wind.
Commander Ellis, I have another mission for you and your men. Split your forces and hunt down the messengers coming from Kerrigan Hold, and send the rest of your men around to attack the hold from the north. It's time to escalate things.
She canceled her magic inside. She wasn't going to start this early. She would rather have had the incarnation do her dirty work for her.
Wait!
She spun with amazing alacrity for someone her age. Oh, what brilliant idea does she have now? I swear elves think they know everything. Rancian spoke from behind the throne. His voice sounded weak, and he ended in a coughing fit.
That's because we do, you sniveling mongrel. Now, be silent while I think.
Illith wanted the incarnation to do her dirty work. Well, why didn't she just bring him here? She would need to restrain him and find his weakness again. Obviously, it wasn't Earth, even though that did hold him rather well. Once he made his appearance again, she would capture him and keep him here until she could make him her puppet. She would just let the king and his hapless companions keep working on how to stop him and let her spy fill her in. Once she had his weakness, then she would bind him to her and have a weapon that no one could stop.
Oh, this is going to be a good day after all.
And that is, well, part of chapter 6. I realize that if you haven't read my books, a lot of that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, but for those that are fans, you just got a sneak peek of what's coming. My second book is already out through Skullgate Media, and my next book is slated sometime, well, late summer. And then next year, we all get a look at the final piece of work, book 3. Thank you all for watching, and as always, have a great day.